to be fun, people. Aaron Rodgers was a bad man last night, throwing for 5 touchdowns and 0 interceptions in the Packers' 38-28 win over the Chiefs. It was the 4th time in his career Rodgers threw 5 passing TDs, and he now has gone 16 regular season games at home without throwing an interception. Rodgers has the greatest TD to interception ratio in NFL history of quarterbacks who have at least 1,500 attempts. And you may have heard about the other guys on this list. 2nd, Tom Brady, then Peyton Manning, Tony Romo, and 5th, Steve Young. You know what, Stephen A? The floor is all yours, my friend. Take it away.
You know, it's interesting. It's interesting that you highlighted those things. I definitely appreciate it, particularly that last stat with TD to interception ratio. I have to listen to my compatriot across that table, whether it's via satellite or sitting right across from him in studio on far too many occasions, listening to his drivel about how Aaron Rodgers is not that bad of a man, how he talks about Tom Brady. It's so disgusting, so nauseating, so insulting, so disrespectful. I have decided to put Skip Bayless on the spot with a simple question. I believe that Aaron Rodgers will go down, when all is said and done, he will go down as the greatest quarterback in history. Talent-wise.
In history?
I believe talent-wise. Talent-wise. Certainly not yardage with Peyton Manning, the great fathers of the world, even Tom Brady, people like that. But talent-wise, I believe right now Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback I have ever seen. With that in mind, Skip, I have a simple question for you. Give me 5. You don't even have, I'm not even talking about the present. I will give you history. The history of the National Football League. Give me 5 quarterbacks right now who you believe is better than Aaron Rodgers talent-wise in history.
Okay.
I dare you. The floor is yours.
We got to define this question, because you threw in the little tricky caveat there about talent-wise. Is it not production? When we talk about quarterback play, isn't it what you did when it really mattered the most? Isn't that how we would define quarterback greatness? Or are we just doing eye-test talent?
You can define, all I'm saying to you is this. You can define it any way you want, devoid of championships. Because Dan Marino never won one, and we all know he's one of the greatest ever. John Elway won 2, and the last 2 he won before he retired. That's when he had Terrell Davis. But we all know how great he was. Fran Tarkenton lost 4 Super Bowls. Jim Kelly lost 4 Super Bowls. But we know how great they were as quarterbacks. So we ain't talking championships, okay? Because that doesn't define your greatness as a quarterback, because this is a team sport. I'm asking you, omit that category. The floor is yours. Give me 5 quarterbacks in the history of football better than that man, Aaron Rodgers.
Here we go.
Okay, so I need to remind our viewers up front, just for the record, that the baddest man, says Stephen A., Aaron Rodgers, is 6-5 in the postseason. 6-5. That includes 4 straight wins as a wild card team to win his lone Super Bowl. And since that Super Bowl, long ago, he's 2-4 in the postseason. That's the guy we're trying to make this case for, okay?
That's right. Let me pause before you get into that. Tom Brady went the last 10 years without a Super Bowl until Darrell Revis arrived last year.
Games Keep going. To? Yeah, and he got to the 2 Super Bowls. Okay.
Keep going.
So right now, just to stay current, obviously I'll take Tom Brady any day of the week, especially on Sunday, over Aaron Rodgers, because Tom Brady is 21-8 in the postseason, and he has 4 rings, 4 Super Bowl rings, and Bill Belichick should drop down on his knees and thank God every night that Tom Brady fell into his lap in 2001. Next on my list is obviously the greatest quarterback ever right now, Joe Montana. That's probably going to be eclipsed by the great Tom Brady. But Joe Montana has 4 Super Bowl rings with a 16-7 postseason record. And if you want to talk about tap dancing in the pocket, you want to talk about beautiful ballet feet, this man had them, Joe Montana, and had a whip of an arm right there with Aaron Rodgers, to me, to my eye test sight. Now, number 3 on my list is the great John Elway, who has 2 Super Bowl rings and a 14-7 postseason record. And you don't remember this because it was before your time. John Elway could flat out fly out of the pocket. He was a sensational early career athlete who learned that it's probably best to stay in the pocket, and later in his career to hand off to your guy TD, right? Terrell Davis, because that's how you win Super Bowls, and he won 2 that probably could have been 3 if he'd come back for 1 more year. But I'll take him over Aaron Rodgers. And then number 4 on my list is a guy who could run rings around Aaron Rodgers, those great feet of his. Roger Staubach. As clutch a quarterback as I've ever seen. If I have one game for my life, I want Roger Staubach to start that game. They called him Roger Dodger because he could just escape and run and take off and sprint down the field. He had RG3 in him early in his career until he learned you probably can't survive that way in the NFL. Roger Staubach has 2 rings and an 11-6 playoff record. So now that's 4. And then the 5th guy on my list is this guy that you always disparage on this show named Brett Favre. Do you remember him early in his career? What a stud athlete he was. Could he not make people miss in the pocket? Could he not run down the football field in ways that Aaron Rodgers never thought about running? Brett Favre had the strongest arm in pro football early on. Brett Favre won 3 straight MVPs. Brett Favre did win only 1 Super Bowl, but at least he's 13-11 in the playoffs, which I think is a little better than 6-5 that Aaron Rodgers has right now. Maybe someday Aaron will get to 13-11 because that's the track he's on. But I'll just throw in Brett Favre because you're talking about talent, pure talent. Nobody had a cannon like Brett Favre's for the first 6 or 8 years of his career. So I just gave you 5 off the top of my head. I didn't even throw Marino in there. But if you just want to do eye test, just pure arm talent, nobody had more arm talent than Dan Marino did, including Aaron Rodgers. So I don't even know what you're talking about. I'm embarrassed we're doing this question. Thank you very much.
Well, you should be embarrassed, but not over the question. You should be embarrassed by your ridiculous, asinine comments that you just made, so disrespectful towards the greatness of Aaron Rodgers. Let's go down the list, Skip Bayless. Let's keep in mind that coming into this season, his career stats, Skip, his career passer rating of 106 is number 1. That's number 1. You look at his completion percentage. Yes, it is. Oh, well, I do. I'm sorry, you don't get to speak for me. Zip it. You had your moment. Zip it. I'm talking. Chicka. That's right. Point number 2, completion percentage. Career, 65.8%.
Wow.
The touchdown rate is 6.5%.
Wow.
His interception rate at 1.6%, Skip Bayless. I mean, you talk yards per attempt. Number 3 all-time at 8.2. Now, let's look at this. Let's go down your list. Because we ain't going to even bring up Tom Brady because we know you and I ain't going to agree there, okay? We ain't going to agree there at all.
So
that's fine. Let's go down your list.
Okay. He doesn't count.
No, I'm saying we disagree because what I'm saying to you is this. Tom Brady's been around longer. He's been starting longer. He's been in the same system. The level of continuity that he has had with Bill Belichick, the way Bill Belichick seems to continuously get no names and make them look great on both sides of the football, I think is a testament to his greatness as a coach.
Julian Edelman, a 7th-round former quarterback? That is exactly why you and I disagree right there. That's why I say I ain't going to get it to him, because I said on both sides of the ball, Bill Belichick is the man. You can sit there and say what you want, but you're going to sit there and give Brady all the credit. That's fine. We've argued about that enough. Let's get something fresh. We got Montana here. Ooh, I got to admit, the 4 Super Bowl rings can't be denied his greatness. Joe Cool, okay, under pressure. I get all of that. So I can sit there and debate it with you, but I can tell you, even though Joe Montana could scramble, I never saw him throw a football the way that Aaron Rodgers threw a football. But that's fair because he's Joe Montana, all right? So I'm going to concede that you might have a point there. Not Brady, but Montana. But here's where you make me laugh. Elway wasn't as great as he was, and no disrespect to Elway, as great as he was, even you were willing to admit that we didn't see the Super Bowls until Terrell Davis arrived. Not to mention the fact that whether it was because he was throwing too hard, acting like he was playing outfield for the New York Yankees instead of quarterback for the Denver Broncos, there were some times when John Elway, this completion percentage wasn't that high, where receivers may have been dropping his passes, and there were times he didn't produce. Okay? So now let's get to He got 2 other teams to Super Bowls, okay? Just for the record. He got 2 bad teams to Super Bowls and got blown out. Go ahead.
That's fair.
All right.
That's so he got annihilated. I guess he got annihilated, especially by the Redskins. But that's fine. That's fine. But then I'm looking at Roger Staubach. Okay, he was a champion. You don't miss the Navy. Love him. Love his service to our country. Good, great man. Is a phenomenal businessman since he stepped away from the game. But here's the thing about Roger Staubach. 22,000 career passing yards. Okay, are you kidding me? You could talk about what he did. His numbers don't even compare. And by the way, he was buffered by the doomsday defense of your Dallas Cowboys. Let's not forget that. Plus, he had great players with him. The Drew Pearsons of the world, the Tony Dorsett's of the world. I'm just saying. I'm just saying. So he's a Hall of Famer, but let's put it in perspective. Now let me get to my last point, because this is just absolutely hysterical. Brett Favre? You mean the Brett Favre with the career 62% completion percentage? You mean the Brett Favre who's thrown you think the Brett Favre who's thrown 336 interceptions in his career in 20 years has the same amount of Super Bowl championships as Aaron Rodgers? And you're going to tell me he was better than Aaron Rodgers?
Ever. That guy. Yes, that guy. Yes.
He does. Let me tell you, Skip, I'm going to say something to you that you might consider very blessed. You thought I was disrespectful before. Allow me to sit here and say this to you. I'll give Brett Favre all the credit in the world for being the Iron Man that he is with those consecutive games played. He certainly had big moments. He was a gunslinger and made big plays. He made big mistakes too. I'm telling you right now, Brett Favre doesn't even belong in this conversation with Aaron Rodgers.
Okay.
Not even in this conversation.
Last question. Back to you.
Not even in this conversation.
As a young quarterback, which quarterback had more talent, Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre? Just on pure, raw, God-given talent, which one has the most talent?
I don't think that's a fair question. I don't think that's a fair question, because Aaron Rodgers was sitting on the bench for 4 years.
What? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you. Say it again.
Aaron Rodgers was sitting on the bench for about 3 or 4 years.
Okay, but
so what I'm saying to you is
his first year starting, just as a young player, who had the most talent?
No, his first year starting, there was nothing that he did was comparable to Brett Favre. Second year and on, yes, it was.
Brett Favre, more talented than Aaron Rodgers as a younger player.
Nope.
Yes.
You just said you're going to take Aaron Rodgers' first year. If you're going to take Aaron Rodgers' first year, after that.
Yeah. At a comparable age, at whatever, 28 years of age. More talent, Brett Favre. Yes. You just don't remember. You're too young.
Brett Favre could never throw the ball like this dude.
Yes, he could.
Oh, I'm not too young. You're talking about too young.
You're too young.
I'm in college when Brett Favre was playing.
We have to go to break. We have to go to break. Stephen A., I appreciate you coming up with this question. This was tremendous. We could do a whole show on this. Just to recap, Skip's 5 quarterbacks better than Rodgers in history: Brady, Montana, Elway, Staubach, and Favre. We asked you guys earlier, we wanted you to weigh in, if Aaron Rodgers is the best quarterback in the NFL, using the hashtag best NFL passer. And here are the results. 65% say yes, agreeing with Stephen A. Skip likes his back against the wall like the Patriots anyway. 35% saying no. Up next.